Hi, I'm Femi OK and you're in the stream. Today, why are some European Kurds heading to the front lines? Not to fight for ISIL, but to fight against them. This conversation has engaged our Kurd community around the world online. Malika Bilal, digital producer, what are you seeing?
Well, in answering the question of why so many Kurds or any number of Kurds may be going to fight, there was one common theme that came up in the tweets that we heard from the diaspora, and that looked like this. This is a tweet we got from Australia. Reban says, "A Kurd's identity is more important than anything. It's a compulsory duty to defend that identity." So that's one person's view. We want to know what you think as well. So tweet us your questions and your comments with hashtag AJStream.
And we will get to the conversation in just a moment. But first, here's a look at some of the other stories making news around the world. There's a small number of European Kurds leaving their homes and they're going to the front lines to fight against Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant, or ISIL. The Kurds of northern Iraq have been at war with ISIL since the conflict began, and they've seen success at securing their region, often armed and aided by Western countries. Now, it's estimated that a couple of hundred European Kurds have taken up arms and more are expected to join. There's currently nothing banning this flow of fighters, but the United Nations Security Council has just unanimously voted to toughen laws preventing foreign fighters from joining ISIL. So, what motivates European Kurds to leave their adopted homes in the first place, and how should they be treated when they get back? To help us have this conversation, we have from Erbil in northern Iraq, Mama Kurda. He's a British Kurd fighting with Peshmerga forces. From Helsinki, Finland, hello there, Mama Kurda. From Helsinki in Finland, we have Shaho Purani. He's a Danish Kurd. And from Pretoria, South Africa, we have Peter Kanupa. He is a senior visiting fellow of the Klingendael Institute and former director of the International Centre for Counter-Terrorism at The Hague. And finally from Stockholm, good evening. Hi, nice to have you here with us, Peter. And also Alan Abdullah is the political secretary for the Kurdish Regional Government, or KRG, in Sweden. So gentlemen, welcome all to the stream. I have to get you to look at my laptop right now. This is a headline from The Telegraph. Hairdresser from Croydon joins fight against ISIL. This here is Mama Kurda. This is him in uniform. Mama Kurda, I know Croydon. It's like my old stomping ground in South London. I'm trying to imagine how you got from there to where you're sitting right now in Erbil in Iraq. What happened? What made you want to fight ISIL in the first place?
Basically, I was here as a project manager in Surichi company in Erbil since January. Then suddenly everything changed when the ISIS trying to come attack Erbil, which is the capital of Kurdistan. And this is, I think, every Kurdish single person around the world duty to defend the land. This is my land. This is my people, and if we didn't risk our lives here, the world would be in the total disaster. I don't know why people they're calling as a foreign fighter when I'm Kurdish, and Kurdish around the world, Kurdish living abroad from all the parts from Kurdistan, they always Kurdish. It doesn't matter where they are, they're from Kurdistan. Their heart is, they're always ready to defend, and we will always to defend.
So Mama Kurda, maybe not foreign fighter if you say you're Kurdish, but how about amateur fighter? Because what are you trained to do? What's your profession? You're a trained hairdresser.
I own a hairdresser in London, and I still do. And here I'm a project manager in the construction company.
All right, so none of those are fighting ISIL. So how do you go from being a contractor, a hairdresser, to fighting ISIL? That's the connection. Why do you think you're even fit to do that?
There is always, if you have enough information about Kurdistan, you have been through a long history with the genocide, chemical bombing, Anfal. Every families in Kurdistan, we have a background, and we call ourselves, when we born, we are Peshmerga. So it's
you're
my
born a fighter, just because where you come from, you're just naturally born a fighter.
Not a fighter. It's called Peshmerga. Peshmerga with a fighter, at least two different words.
Okay.
And for me, we all born as a Peshmerga, and my family have a background of the history of Kurdistan. But the last 10 years, Kurdistan has been changing a lot. People are being really good with their businesses, and people are being changing from the fighting to go to the stock markets in the world, to do trade businesses with the US, with the Europe. So for me, I was like one of them. When I came back from UK, I started my own business here with one of the biggest company of Arbil.
Okay, Malika.
So Shaho, we heard Mama's story, and we're getting questions in asking about some of the motivations behind stories like this. There's a tweet here from Shuja, and he says, my question is, what got them to the point where they decided to give up their life in the EU to go take up arms and fight against ISIL? And Shaho, of course, you have not been in the fight yet, but you're a prospective fighter. So what is it that led you to this point to decide this is something I might want to do?
Well, first of all, all Kurds are Peshmerga, because we are all fighting in our own ways against oppression and for basic human rights. But the thing is, our lives are not worth much in Denmark, for instance, if we can see our family members being killed and harassed and not having any basic human rights. And when you come up from a country like Denmark and you see how much freedom we have, and you go back to Kurdistan and you see how bad things are, especially in the Western Kurdistan and Eastern Kurdistan, then you cannot live and sit still in Denmark. That's impossible.
Right. Okay, so you're thinking of going to fight against ISIL. What preparations are you making? Because for our audience, tell our audience professionally what you are. What are you trained in? Shaho.
Well, as Mama Kurda said, all Kurds are Peshmerga.
Oh, yeah.
It's like in our blood.
I understand that. But you studied to be a what?
Yeah, that's true. But the thing is, you have to understand, like, it's not even some decades ago when there was a world war in Europe.
Yeah.
And everybody took up arms and they defended their country against oppression.
Sure.
So the thing is, when it comes to human basic rights, then we have all these instincts in us, and we have to fight for our freedom and take our freedom back, because no one will give them to us.
So it's about passion.
That's right. I'm an anthropologist.
Yeah, this like
yeah,
so
exactly.
I hear the passion. Right, but I'm gonna tell people that you are a trained anthropologist. So how do you go from being a trained anthropologist to being able to hold a gun? Have a look at here. There's a story that ABC News did on you, and you're holding a Kalashnikov. And then perhaps that might not be something that you've done before. How do you get up to speed? You could die if you go to northern Iraq.
Yeah, that's true. We can all die, but that's the term of Peshmerga, means you have to give your life for your country, or else you will not get anything. But the thing is, yes, I'm an anthropologist, but I have studied political science. But when it comes to our enemies like the Iranian regime and the ISIL, then there's no point in making any diplomacy. There's no point in going the political way and talk to these people.
Right.
Then you have to fight for your rights. That's the thing. So everybody who can and who wants, they can go and make a difference.
Yeah, I want to read this perspective from the community, because we are hearing from our Kurdish community in the diaspora. Burham says every Kurdish family have or has been a Peshmerga, so it's natural to go back and fight, but most people help through humanitarian efforts. Now, Peter, on the other hand, we got this tweet. This is from Rennie, who's also a bit skeptical, and he says, how do you presume to gain military skills in a short time enough to fight legit battles, and have you life insurance? Now, of course, Peter, that's not directed to you, but if you could enlighten us on what training looks like for foreign fighters who are joining really ragtag teams, not necessarily standing armies.
Yeah, most of these people will be trained on the spot, will travel and then get the training once they're there. The interesting thing about the motivational issue, and it's could you focus on the identity issues and all the other motivations that we've heard so far. The interesting thing is that the opponents, the other side, those who join IS or ISIS or whatever you frame them, are using exactly the same language. Their identity is that it is forcing them to go and join forces to fight Assad and other forces that they feel that are enemies against them. So it's very similar what happens on the other side. So both sides are basing themselves on identity issues, the need to defend themselves, the need to defend their people, that reciprocity issue, they are attacking us, so we need to defend ourselves. Nobody will stand up for our rights. So you see, we've done a lot of work in our office on the motivational issues on the other side, and they're very similar, which means that the confrontation will be hard, rough, tough, because both sides are convinced that they're doing the right thing.
I think it's really interesting that Mama and Shaho, when I asked you what training you've done or what preparation you've done, you kept on telling me that you were born Peshmerga, and nobody told me about any training that they've done. Mama, I know you've been in a conflict situation, you've shot guns at people, right? How much prep did you do before you went to battle?
Practicing before I go to the front line because I was in the army base, just the place outside of Arbil. Then they sent us to the front line. This is AK-47 what we're using here now, and I think we all have enough experience to use this. And this is not about this fight and war. It's not about how using the weapon. It's about the moral and fighting for the land. Even if we didn't have a weapon, I could really just go fight without gun.
Right. But let's be practical here, right? I hear the morality. So Mama, could I hear the morality? But if you can't shoot your gun, how are you going to be helpful?
Well, I mean, this morality it gives us everything.
All right. Okay, I hear it.
We have enough anger in our heart.
It's okay. The anger is fueling it.
Just my comment for the Rabbani tweet. He's saying if we go back to Europe and we will be danger to the West. We are not the danger. These people are the danger. Demonstration and waving the black flags in the streets in Germany, in Denmark, in Sweden, in London, freely.
Right.
Again, West has to be very careful with these people. I think we showed to the West and to the US who we are and how democracy we are and how safe we are.
All right, I hear that.
Kurdistan State will be the friendly base to Europe and US in the Middle East.
Sure, so I hear that. So you're saying basically the cause is stronger than the practicalities of actually physically being able to fight. But let me bring in Alan here from the Kurdish regional government. Alan, when people turn up, how many people are turning up, for instance, in northern Iraq saying, hey, we want to fight with Peshmerga? I'm imagining that this might be, they're amateurs, this might be practically quite difficult. What are you seeing?
There's just a handful in Europe going back to Kurdistan to do this.
Right.
I think it's important to recognize is the humanitarian aid that the Kurdish community throughout Europe is giving to the Kurdistan region. That is a better discussion to have than these two examples that you are giving.
Sure, but we actually do have people on the show who are actually saying we're watching this from a distance and we need to actually get involved. So if people are watching this and saying, okay, how can I help from the Kurdish community around the world, what would you tell them that would be practically very helpful for you as KRG? Alan?
Do you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Just a few weeks ago, we had 3 mothers and 3 daughters visiting us in Stockholm. They wanted to help, and we linked them to the right organization in Kurdistan, Save the Children, and now they are in Kurdistan aiding the refugees. I think that's where the Kurdish community can do the most help.
So aid rather than volunteer fighters. Malika?
Well, there's some criticism here of what we're seeing. Goblin on Twitter says, the world is using untrained Kurds to fight against untrained ISIS or ISIL. If they succeed, what then? And do they trust the West to allow a free Kurdistan, this person asks. Another person picks up on that theme. Havalo says, Kurds on the front line of the battle against ISIS or ISIL should be aided by high-tech weaponry to fight ISIS effectively. So Shahu, do you give any credence to tweets like this that say what's actually needed is weaponry, not so much boots on the ground?
Yeah, exactly. I'm partly accepting this argument, but the thing is, we are not amateurs. I, for my sake, had some training, basic training, and our country would never send us out to die just like that. They would give you the necessary the weaponry and so on. But the thing is, we are on our own. Nobody helps us. Who is helping the Kurds against the Iranian regime and the Syrian regime? Nobody. They just come in to this fight like weeks before. That's why we young Kurds from Europe had to take these hard choices and do something, because where was the US 6 months ago when ISIS were destroying Syria, and where were they a few weeks ago when they took Mosul by a few hours? So the thing is, we are standing up because nobody in the world are opening their eyes to the Kurdish struggle. So we have to defend ourselves. So now we are thankful that they have come and supported the Kurds with weaponry and expertise and so on, but they are not always been there. We have been fighting these extremists for over 3 decades in Iran and against Saddam before and the Iranian Islamic regime. So the same thing is going on now. Who's helping the Kurds against the Iran regime? Every day people are dying. I call it this slow genocide, slow motion, because they are hanging people every day and killing people every day. And I cannot stand to see that without doing anything. I have to do something. So that's the thing. That's why I'm motivated to go down and fight, because the world is not helping us. The Iranian regime are killing people every day. ISIS are killing people every day. So we have to stop them ourselves if the international governments are not coming to help us.
Go ahead.
Just one. In some point, I'm really blaming US and the West. What's going on in Iraq right now, especially in Kurdistan, is because when they came in 2003, when to remove Saddam Hussein from the power, they handed this power to some people which they are worse than Saddam Hussein, and there is 100 Saddam Hussein in Iraq right now, and they gave all these heavy weapons to the Iraqi army, and they left Kurdistan and Kurdish army without no weapon, and today Kurdistan, Europe and US, they must know this. This helping, it's not only about the Kurdish. Kurdistan has become a front line to the war. They have to send these. We don't have to ask for help.
Sure.
This situation. It came from the wrong politics of US.
Sure. This is a huge conversation which goes back to Gulf War I, Gulf War II, what happened in Syria. So I'm just going to curtail it just for a moment, Mama Kurda, because we only have a few minutes left on this show, and just focus back on what maybe will happen to you and maybe Shaho. Yeah. Just to keep it personal so that we can actually connect with what you're doing here. Have you killed anybody, Mama Kurda? Do you know if you've killed anybody?
I don't know.
Okay. But you're okay with that?
Yes.
What happens when
killing us? They're killing us, and they're sharing the videos on the Facebook and the tweeting and on Instagram. So, I mean, it becomes normal for them to killing us, killing our kids, raping our women, and they're really sharing on the social media, and words watching this.
And then you see all of this, and then you go back. Yeah, I'm just curious, Peter, about when Mama Kurda sees all of this, and then he goes back to Croydon in South London, which is about as suburban as you can get. How do you fit back in, Peter?
Yeah, but reintegration and how you fit back in is an important question.
Yeah.
How you do that? You need to work on that. Governments are aware of that and know that returning foreign fighters, excuse me to use that term for lack of a better one, but returning foreign fighters deserve a proper reintegration program, because they've been in a dirty environment of a war. A war is a dirty thing. Don't underestimate what happens to people. They're traumatized. Killing is something that you cross a threshold. And if you have done that, coming back into society, into a normal position, is not easy. And people deserve reintegration programs and deserve to be helped and assisted to come back. But just on the other topic, I think having a proper analysis of the problem and the history and the background of the conflict is an important aspect. Somebody was saying, let's go back to history and let's analyze what happened, and let's go back 30 years and how this all happened. I think that is very, very crucial. If people want to join a conflict, a proper analysis of what happened and who did what and why is important to understand what you are entering and what exactly happens when you enter that conflict. That's one. The other one is that somebody was using the element of reciprocity. They kill us so we can kill. Now that is what a conflict is. That is the very essence of a conflict. Once somebody kills somebody else, then the other party will feel that they have the right to kill the other. And if you keep on escalating and spiraling up, nobody will ever come down, because the more you kill, the more the others will kill.
If I understood Peter correctly, because his voice is not very good, there is million people from Middle East and Asia are living in Europe and US, and they are EU citizens. Minimum of them, 50%, they came from the army. They are ex-commanders. They have been killing. They have been involving with the terrorist groups. And this is the people are dangerous living in Europe. These people are dangerous in Europe, who gave them a good benefit. They give them free house. They give them good education. They give them free health, and they don't have to work. So in their free time, they go follow these things on the social medias, on the internet websites. These people are danger. We know are danger to the Europe when we come back. We here, we defend the humanity. We risk our life for the humanity. There is no way we go back to Europe and we're going to be a danger for the community of Europe. So this has to be clear, and I think West has to wake up and change all these laws they have for the foreigner for the foreigner people are living there. They gave them very easy life, but they don't appreciate it.
So Mama Kurd, are you worried about going back to the UK, that you might get arrested for fighting overseas? Is that something on your mind?
I will go back, and I'm not worried actually. I know UK, and I have everything in the proof. What I have been doing here, I haven't done nothing wrong, and defending my first land and my nationality, I don't see nothing wrong about it.
The thing is also, we have British soldiers, Danish soldiers in Afghanistan and Iraq, and they go back and they live normal lives. It's true, war is a dirty thing, and you get some scars on your soul. But the thing is, if you don't take the risk, then you will never gain anything. And just as soldiers from Denmark can come back to Denmark and live a normal life, so can we. We are fighting for freedom, and we are fighting for freedom in Europe also, because these terrorist groups can easily do some operations in the future, maybe in Europe.
Okay, gentlemen, I'm just going to put a pause on this conversation for the moment. Just skipping across the community, Malika, what are they telling us?
Well, picking up on exactly what Shahu said was, if you tell us how to go and fight ISIS or ISIL, there are hundreds of Kurds who will go to fight them, this person on Twitter says.
All right, this conversation is not over. I'm taking it to stream.aljazeera.com. That will be where the post show is. I just have time to tell you about our next AJ stream, giving corporations greater rights to take on governments in court. We'll look at the debate over trade agreements that aim to expand the rights of companies. That conversation on the next AJ stream. But right now, I will see you, and Malika will see you at stream.aljazeera.com. Thanks for watching. Welcome back. You're in the Stream Post show. Today we're speaking with European Kurds who take up arms against ISIL. I want to get right back to that conversation. I also want to thank Shaho Parani for being part of this program. I know, Shaho, that you lost your cousin very recently and he was Peshmerga. There's a picture of him here with you when you were in training camp. Tell us about him. How did he die?
His name was Hajar Qasimi. We lived together when I lived in Mahabad in Kurdistan. And then I moved to Denmark after the first Gulf War. He stayed in Kurdistan. He was Peshmerga since he was 16 years old. And he died as a 29-year-old young man with no kids, no wife, nothing. He gave his life for his country. And now operations have started against the Iranian extremist regime in East Kurdistan, in the Iranian part. So he was part of that. And he gave his love for his country. And now we are proud and our heads are held high because we have a martyr in our family, the second martyr in our family. So it's a sad day, sad week, but our heads are held high because there's thousands like Hajar all over Kurdistan who are giving their life for their country. So we are proud people. We have a lot of shaheeds.
So condolences to you and your family, Shaho. Does that make you want to fight more or fight less? What happens?
I believe me, a lot more because we have to take up the arms where he left them, because our enemy is so extreme. So it doesn't matter if you're a political scientist or you have a diplomatic background or whatever. They're not listening. They have closed every door for us, so we have no choice but to take up arms and defend our people. They have thousands and thousands of military bases and checkpoints in East Kurdistan, and people are getting no basic human rights. So persons like Hajar, thousands of them are taking up arms to fight for their basic freedoms.
Sure.
So I'm asking the international community to help us over there too, because we are fighting an extremist party that is even more dangerous than ISIS.
Mama, there's a question here on Twitter from someone who wonders whether or not you and others like you will ever go back. Mo Dahir says, I don't think that they'll return, meaning back to the UK. Probably their plan, he says, is to be part of a new sovereign Kurdistan, a new nation. Does that cross your mind? Mama?
Kurdistan will be on the map very soon. Kurdistan state will be on the map very soon.
But is that part of the reasoning of why you're there?
No, the fight we're doing against ISIS terrorists, we have to destroy them, not as a Kurdish alone. All the world has to destroy ISIS. Even if I'm talking right now as a British, I have to destroy them before they destroy the humanity in the world. But for the next step, it's Kurdistan will be as a state and independence, and we all have to see in the map.
Peter, let me bring you back into the conversation. If it shouldn't be people like Mama Kurda, who is a trained hairdresser, fighting ISIL, who should be out there fighting ISIL?
Well, I think it's a professional thing, and I haven't said that he should be going there. It's important to understand motivational factors and why people what they do. And I'm not here to judge anybody, but it is a professional thing that is bound by international legal standards that should be checked by international legal experts. So it's not something that amateurs should get involved in. It's something that is serious business in terms of psychological damage, but also legal terms.
I don't feel part of this conversation at all.
Alan, join in the conversation. We hear you. So if it shouldn't be, I hear you. Jump in. What did you want to add?
No, I just told the producer I don't hear the voices.
You don't hear the voices. All right, we'll fix that and then we'll get you back in. Can you hear me? I mean, the most important voice right now that you can hear. Because I wanted to ask you.
I can hear you.
Yes, fantastic. Just focus on mine. You'll be okay. I'll hold your hand. All right, so for Alan, let me just focus on Alan for 1 minute, Mama Kurda, because Alan's having trouble listening to everybody. If people like Mama Kurda shouldn't be fighting, people like Shaho who says, I want to go to fight, if they shouldn't be fighting, who should be taking on ISIL in northern Iraq? Whose job is that?
Peshmerga is taking on. The Peshmerga is taking
by
on
themselves?
The Kurds are taking on. No, we have the international community supporting us both with air support and also equipping us militarily.
Right.
This has to
Okay, so Alan, now it's my time to say, I'm sorry, I'm not hearing you quite so well. Let me just jump back to the community. Malika.
Well, and who should take them on? You know, it's interesting, Mark on Facebook likens this to World War II and the fight against the Nazis. He says the fight against ISIS or ISIL is everyone's fight. And this is like the fight against the Nazis. Anyone who goes to fight against them, in this case ISIL, deserves a medal for bravery, he says.
Wow. All right, so Mama Kurda, I'm just thinking, do you have family back in South London? Are they seeing you doing interviews and are terrified for you? How are they feeling about what you're doing right now?
I have a family in London, and I have friends, and they're proud of me, and they are very actually supportive to me. That's all.
Right. And Peter, this is an interesting conundrum because the United Nations just last week, the Security Council said, okay, anybody who goes to fight with a jihadist force, we're going to stop them, basically. And it was a unanimous agreement. But this is slightly different. These are people who are going to fight against Islamic State or ISIL. What should happen to people who do that? Is there a double standard going on, perhaps?
Yeah, well, there is in a certain sense. I think the importance of understanding the foreign fighters issue, also on the jihadi side, is that it is important to understand why people do what they do. Why should we not try to really analyze why people feel attracted to fight in the Middle East on the jihadi side? They feel exploited, alienated, excluded from society, and this is one of the reasons why they leave and go to Syria, Iraq to fight on that side. Understanding why people do that is important to be able to prevent it. Right. And then the next step is, once they're there, you want to know what they do and if they potentially come back and what happens when they come back. And that is exactly the same, and this is why I compliment you for what you're doing. You're trying to analyze why people do what they do, understand what they do, and then see what needs to be done to assist and help these people if ever they return. And on the issue of the professionals, if people fight for the Danish government, somebody said that, you know, people fight for the Danish government, go to Afghanistan, go to other places, and then return and live a normal life. That is not the case. Many of these people are traumatized and have a hard time to reintegrate into society, and they're being assisted and helped by the army, by professionals to reintegrate into Danish society. And I think that reintegration programs are important as much to foreign fighters as
but that's the price we pay for our freedom, Peter. I agree with you. It will give us scars, and I said that before, in our soul, and but that's the price you have to pay for freedom when you're fighting terrorism that is threatening everybody. And the thing is, if you are someone who's excluded from society in your own country, like in England or in Denmark, that doesn't give you a right to go and take off people's heads. So people have to take responsibility for their actions, and if they go down and take off people's heads, then they have to feel the consequences from the Peshmerga and the international community. And that's why we are ready to fight every form of extremism in Kurdistan. We have been fighting them for decades. But first now, the last 10 years, the Europeans and the Western countries have seen what we have been fighting for so many years. So we know who our enemy is. Now it's time for you people to wake up and see who we are facing, what kind of danger we are facing.
And there you hear the debate in a nutshell. I want to thank Shaho Parani, Mama Kurda, Peter Knoper, and also Alan Abdullah for being part of this conversation. What would you like to leave us with, Malika?
Well, picking up on what Shaho said, this is the price that we have to pay for freedom. And so I think that leads us really nicely into this video comment from a member of our community and also a member of the Kurdish community. Have a listen to this.
I think what motivates a lot of Kurds to come back is a deep sense of duty and patriotism that's instilled and entrenched in so many of us from birth. I think it's also a need to be self-reliant, which of course may equate to future statehood. And I think it's also a longing not to have to watch history repeat itself. The Kurds want to be the victors in this, they don't want to be the victims, and in order to make that happen we must pick ourselves up from the rubbles of our past on a humanitarian and military basis.
She talks about duty, patriotism, words that we've seen a lot during today's show.
Thank you for our community for being part of this conversation, and to our guests as well. Moving on to our next show, giving corporations greater rights to take on governments in court. We'll look at the debate over trade agreements that aim to expand the rights of companies. That conversation on the next 8-day stream. Until then, see you online.